Hello, all you boys and girls! It is the father and son duo that rocks you a new one. That's right, it is me, Jules, here with Ewan on the comic book channel for What Culture, with another episode of Panel Pals.
Panel Pals. Ooh, tasty.
Yeah!
That's some smooth, sultry.
One of these days, when you get old enough, I will teach you the power of the jingle. You might even be able to create your own.
That's on
one.
record now. I've got to hold you to account on that.
We have many mysteries to solve, you and I. First off, we need to find out who your mum is first.
Oh, that's true. Definitely lost in time.
Stay tuned for our dad vent calendar through Christmas. might be some
You've
quiz
got
there.
the puns that a dad would have now as well.
This is what it is. Got dad body,
Yeah.
dad brain. This is it. Literally just need to have a kid
checked in
now
on
or
Peter.
another one.
Oh.
Have I got more kids?
I was going to say we checked in on Peter. I mean, he was in the corner last time.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
Yeah.
Just chewing on some wires, I think.
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, was that the reason why the lights flickered the other week?
Possibly.
Oh.
But enough preamble.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something a bit different. So on the last few weeks that we've done Panel Pals, we've basically gone to the Travelling Man in Newcastle, our boys.
They're lovely.
And we basically bought different lines, had a quick comic pull from each one, and basically suggested lines for you to read if you're just getting into comics, or ones that, important stuff that's happening at the moment. What we've done this week, though, is we've only invested in 2 lines, but we've invested heavy because they're both big longies. A big longie saga, and we've got the Dark Knight's Metal saga to go for.
Have a little riff in there. Just,
Woo,
yeah.
nice and shiny, as per usual, and we've also gone for Mr. Miracle. Now, we bought all the main series that we could. We've already gone through some of the supplement issues for the Dark Knight Metal saga, and there aren't any supplement ones for this.
This
is
is
its own
just the main
standalone.
series, yeah.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a bit of a discussion about, could these 2 lines potentially be the best superhero story comics going at the moment?
Yes.
And they're both from DC. That was a very quick discussion.
Good. Right, there we go. I'm just gonna.
I guess it's a case now of like just going through and explaining to the people at home what they're about,
Yep.
who writes them, sort of what the general story arc is,
Cool.
and whether they're worth picking up.
Yeah.
Short answer again, yes they are.
Definitely, yes.
I mean, we could do a thing of like which one's better.
Well, yeah, that might be a thing, but I think they're both just so good. I'm just I genuinely going into Mr. Miracle for that first issue, the way they hyped that thing up as being like this really like smart, irreverent return to the Kirby thing, and you open up the second page and it's actually this really like interesting reimagining of Kirby's world. Like it's so genius. And then metal is just metal as.
We will be discussing spoilers like that just so you are aware.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, it's kind of like a story arc review. I guess we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So let's start with the Dark Knight's Metal saga. Now, we've read some supplement stuff on this. We've seen the birth of a few of the Dark Knights themselves. We saw the Green Lantern one and the
Murder
Cyborg
Machine,
one and Murder Machine. This is a series which has captured my interest so quickly because they're not afraid to destroy everything to make a point. There's a lot going on in there. There's so many cameos from so many different superheroes in the DC universe that it's basically like, you know when they use the term Rogues Gallery a lot?
Yes.
This is the opposite. It's the Heroes Gallery.
It's the Heroes Gallery,
Yeah.
And the one thing that I love most about this is that it feels like, not that Scott Snyder is like attempting to be Grant Morrison or anything, but it reminds me of Grant Morrison in the sense that it's
I
like
can see that.
rooting itself really heavily in the multiverse, or the dark multiverse,
Yeah.
this one's calling it, and yeah.
It's good to see old characters return as well, even if they are only getting sort of brief mentions and things like that. There's
So genius.
in order to try and comprehend what's going on, I feel like we need to give a brief storyline synopsis to catch people up to speed. So there's been this metal that's been discovered called Nth metal.
There's the Nth metal, which people know kind of powers. That's the metal that forms Hawkgirl and Hawkman's wings and the mace. Yeah.
Also Steel's hammer. Apparently as
There's
well.
there's different metal. There's different meteor.
Yeah, it's like different strains of this thing. And basically what's happened is that Batman has been researching this for a while.
Yeah.
Now he's come to the conclusion that he's actually been infected with certain types of other metal during his other story arcs. So, was it Court of Owls?
Before that as well. So it kind of talks about the bit during Final Crisis where Batman got basically hit by, he avoided Darkseid's Omega beams briefly and then got displaced in time, and that's where this whole thing with Barbatos and the whole dark multiverse thing has come from, where he's first infected with the stuff.
But this infection is basically, he's got infected in a few different ways. I think it's 4 different ways, isn't it? And then once the 5th infection happens, he becomes a gateway and allows Barbatos to invade the multiverse with his dark multiverse.
And it's absolutely terrifying.
It is absolutely terrifying because they want nothing more than to destroy and consume absolutely everything.
And listen to some banging tunes when they do it.
Very, very
Yeah,
true.
that's
Very,
cool.
very true. And basically, all of the dark universe is birthed out of real multiverse fears. So it's all of the worst things you can possibly imagine coming through the gates. And I'm not going to lie, I thought that the Justice League were going to be able to put up a bit more fight, but they got absolutely tanked,
That is the
didn't they?
really scary thing about this, is that when you look at old like crises in DC's history, the Justice League have always been down their asses quite a lot of the time. They have been like, they've been knocked down repeatedly. This is like terrifying. Like, I know that it's just a comic book and like, you know, the hero's gonna end like win in the end. But it's just the scale and the threat of this thing. It's just the way that Superman's constantly reliving his deaths to try
that's
and get to
horrible,
the
that,
point.
isn't
And
it?
it's oh my god, it's so good. And all this interdimensional stuff and Dr. Fate and Detective Chimp. Detective Chimp's in that. I'm so hyped.
They go to this at the Midnight Bar and stuff. And like they get to meet a talking chimp.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of this person.
Oh, you know
but,
who Detective Chimp?
but
Oh.
instantly favourite.
Indeed.
The fact that he referred to himself as his uncle because
Yeah.
he's a monkey's uncle.
Yeah.
I was like, brilliant.
Good old Chimp.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So basically, there is so much going on with this. The artwork is phenomenal in this.
Yes.
We will obviously show some
Greg
quick shots of
Capullo,
that.
again, amazing. Just
It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just really, really beautiful stuff. Like it's not too over detailed, but at the same time, it feels like you get a lot of detail within the characters. The backgrounds aren't necessarily what you're fixating on. But yeah, it's very clever how they've done it.
I feel like Capullo just he has a really good sense of how to draw Batman, and he's shown that plenty of times before. Obviously, he's been drawing the character for about five or so years now. But yeah, like oh my god, it's so beautiful, and just the way the colours pop and the way he captures this metal imagery, and like you have the Batman Who Laughs just continues to be the most spectacular nightmare fuel I think I've ever seen.
There's one specific shot that really did a number on me, and it's where Barbatos is standing at the beginning. Oh yeah, it's here as he basically breaks through.
Oh god!
And it's these images here of basically his Horseman of the Apocalypse. And
really,
how huge and demonic he is. Like there is design work here that's very reminiscent of sort of the Gothic architecture and gargoyles and things like that. It's very. It reminds me of Fantasia. You know the demon on the mount.
Fantasia meets Meatloaf.
Well, I mean that is pretty much what the stylistic thing that they've gone for. It is fantastic to look at. But the story is obviously the real way to
It's just so bananas. It's so good, and like obviously we've been seeing like threads of it in the tie-ins and the way that it's all been coming together with the Resistance and like them finding the nth metal and stuff. But no, it's just so clever, and the way Snyder's linked this back to all of his previous stories, the way that's like built it up and how it's just been building to this big momentous event. It's just so clever, and it's so intricate and so crazy and so fun, and just oh my god, I'm so hyped.
Sometimes when they do these sort of like big events, you can feel that it feels quite sort of shoehorned in.
Yeah.
But I believe that all of these seeds were being planted so long ago. I genuinely don't. I look at this and see like, oh. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like that's why that happened at that point. That's why this character said this. It's so impressive, and I really liked how they started the story.
Yes.
They started the story with them fighting it. What's his name again? It's
Mongol.
Mongol. Okay, yeah. And basically, the Justice League's been captured. He has basically taken away all of their powers at that very beginning bit, and it's really interesting to see that they are on the back foot straight away. But they work together and they survive through...
They do a Voltron thing.
Yeah, they do a Voltron thing, which is just awesome in its own right.
Exactly.
But they do it through the use of Batman's intellect. Batman is one leading the charge and basically saying, look for my signal, like follow my lead sort of thing. It shows them weak but overcoming odds. And then straight away you see them being absolutely torn apart. Like they just about made it through that one. And now they're going to have to fight something that's even harder.
It's just, it's the way that sometimes I find it a little bit jarring how writers go out of their way to justify or validate Batman's place in the Justice League. But
that was
here it just makes sense. Like it's so cool. And Barry's like, oh, why do I have to be the foot? And then it goes like, so you can kick. And oh my god, it's so good.
It's very, very clever. And it reminds me very much of Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Because at the very beginning of that, he takes down Scarecrow almost instantaneously in a way that it suggests that the next biggest threat he's going to face is going to overshadow that, and it's even harder. This has done that to an nth degree.
Oh.
There it is.
Oh no.
There it is, big boy.
You busted out the nth on me there.
So that's the thing, like, it just makes it, I feel the weight of this, and I'm so looking forward to seeing where this goes, because I genuinely don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, you don't know, like, genuinely, the way...
There's so many options.
The way was it the third issue started, like, that, it leaves you in it begins in a totally different place to where issue number 1 did, like, it's
them in Smallville, isn't it?
Yeah, and, like, the way that it's been building towards it and all the different issues, like, I liked how the Green Arrow tie-in came into this, where, it's a key thing, and the one thing that I particularly enjoyed, not just like to speak of the story specifically, but the way the editors just banter with each other.
I'm
just loving it. It's like when they mention how Nightwing looks like Jon Snow. I'm like, that's cool. I really enjoy, because that's the thing that gets me with this series, is that it seems like everyone involved is having so much fun with it. And like right down to the credits where it's like Treehouse of Horror. You think of like Treehouse of Horror where Matt Groening and everyone would like have their little scary things. Well, here they've got like metal names, so Scott Sledgehammer Snyder.
It's so good.
Like, I'm so into it. I'm totally getting this aesthetic.
Well, this is the thing. A lot of people deride DC for being too serious for its own good, for being too gritty, and this just proves that you can be gritty and be over the top and fun with it. It's a fantastic read, and there is no way that I would say anything other than pick up this series. It's one of those things where I would even suggest that the supplements are required. I feel like it adds so much more depth in.
And I'd agree, because like it's not like a thing that you have to go, like you could totally read the main series without having to go in and check out those side comics, but you do get something extra from them, and it's not as if they've been half-hearted or anything.
No,
like
not at all.
Every time I've looked into this world, this dark multiverse, I've gotten something new out of it, whether it be in a tie-in, whether it be in a single issue, whether it be in the actual main series itself. And it's all coming together in a way that not kind of only just makes for a fun comic. It kind of makes all the past 5 years of Batman make even more sense.
Very true.
And Scott Snyder just continues to impress, like day in day out. I'm totally made up with what he's doing with this.
I think in terms of storytelling potential for the future as well, they have just opened up Pandora's box of possibilities, like having an infinite dark multiverse. That's so many possibilities for what could come through that.
It was a very meta thing in the first issue where the Black Hawks, they show them the map of the multiverse, and Barry's like, oh yeah, I studied this for ages, and they use the map that Grant Morrison made for his series Multiversity, and then she just flips it over. She's look at all this. As a metaphor, this is what it could be.
Exactly, Absolutely brilliant series. So cannot wait to see how that continues. Now let's go on to something which is tonally could not be more different to this.
Definitely,
I genuinely have been moved by reading Mr. Miracle. I think that this is... I don't want to... It sounds like I'm deriding on this, saying that that's not good storytelling, but this is fantastic storytelling.
Perfect. If that is like a solid 9, this is just a solid 10 for me all the way through, and I was so invested in... having like watched Justice League Unlimited growing up, Mr. Miracle was like I was a big fan of that character, like him and Big Barda and all that world, and Kirby's mythos always really appealed to me. The really interesting thing about this series is that in the run up to it, it was very much marketed as, look, we're going to return to Jack Kirby's new Genesis, it's going to be really fun, it's going to be really interesting, and then it just completely blindsides you in the second page, and the stuff that King's doing with the character of Scott Free, oh my god, I'm so blown away. It's so emotive, so heartfelt, so compelling. Oh god, it's
I feel like he captures a sense of, because to bring you guys up to speed, Mr. Miracle has gone through some very hard times recently. He's lost loved ones, he's lost mentors, he's lost his father,
and he's looking for the ultimate escape.
Which is death to him. He's trying to find a way to get over that, because that's his almost driving force is to find ways to escape what we know. And I think that this brings home a crushing sense of loss. Like sometimes it's not about the Batman side of thing. Like when you lose somebody in your life, it's not necessarily about you crying every single day. It's not about you brooding in that sense. Sometimes it's this general sense of you feel disconnected from your world around you.
That's the perfect way. It's a very sort of sense of like imposter syndrome, in the sense that Scott Free is seeing all these things moving around him, but he's not in control of it. He comes in, he's doing his thing. The only thing he has control of is his miracles, is his own TV show. Then you know it, he's being told to go off to New Genesis to fight a war that's come out of nowhere.
And this is he basically is a pawn in his own life.
Exactly.
And one of the scariest things about I guess just in terms of living your own life, is a lack of agency.
Yeah.
Like feeling that you are not in control of the things that are going on around you, and you are almost being led through it.
And he said
but
that-
this works perfectly for the story.
And because that's the really genius thing is what King has done, is that he's taken the darker inflections of Kirby's world and basically put them front and center and gone,
Yep.
no, we get that Kirby's stuff was so engrossing and so cool, but if you sit back and listen and think about it for a second, how twisted was it really?
Yeah.
And Scott Free is the perfect character to exemplify what you've just said, because right from the get-go he was used as a bargaining chip and to end an intergalactic conflict.
He's never had agency effectively.
So like he gets sent off to being Granny Goodness's. She's much more terrifying than you think.
The name, the name
Granny
throws you off.
Goodness,
The name definitely throws you off on that.
Yeah, but like he's been literally abused as a child. He comes through that. He escapes. He becomes this massive superhero. Becomes his own success story, and yeah, it's so clever and so terrifying. Like, I'm genuinely, I've never read a comic book and been as unnerved but equally compelled to continue reading.
I won't lie to you though, it does, I reckon that the writing style of this asks a lot more of the reader than this does. I feel like Dark Metal, basically not spoon feeds, but it leads you in a direction that is very clear where the
Well, it's very
trajectory is
irreverent and it's very harkens back to kind of old things. Yeah.
Whereas I think this asks a lot from the reader, because it's like, sometimes you won't understand what's going on. You won't understand why people say certain things or repeat this. You are as much Mr. Miracle in this as he is. Like, you're going to be kept in the dark until he discovers it, rather than it being a cut to, and we're going to show this. Cut to, we're going to show
the thing that I love most about it is when the darkest moments are happening, and then King just overlays the Mr. Miracle TV show theme over it, and it's just like, Jesus, I'm completely blown away by it.
Yeah.
I'm a massive fan, and this week's third issue was absolutely incredible as well. I'm just,
Again, to do a sort of plot synopsis of this, he's basically been called to a war where his brother Orion has basically become the new High Father.
Yeah, old High Father got murdered.
Unfortunately, well, he's been murdered off screen. We haven't heard anything about it, and it's this that sort of lays in seeds of you feel like you're never getting the full picture.
It's very subversive.
Like Granny Goodness has a conversation with him where you start to think that there's going to be a sense of truth revealed, and then Barda kills her.
And I think the reason for that is that I think that the thing that's interesting about that scene is because before Scott gets in the boom tube, he does say to Barda, he's like, well, do you ever have that moment where Granny actually confided in you?
No.
And she goes no, and that makes perfect sense, because Granny Goodness is one of the most evil, horrible, horrid creatures in the DC universe.
Yeah.
But then he's vindicated, and then before he can do anything, the trauma that she's put everyone through just lets out and pents up, and it's the perfect thing for Orion to get away with scot-free, and it's, oh my god,
there's so much confusion going on, and clearly so much double crossing.
Yes.
Because at the very end of the final panel of Mr. Miracle number 3, we start to reveal that the person behind this all is Dr. Bedlam. Now, obviously, his power range is quite insane. The fact that he can warp reality and clearly sort of mess with a lot of people.
And it's really clever as well, because you know how like the
They
way
do like a
the
TV
way
effect,
the way
don't
the books the way the panels are scripted, it looks like a TV show, and at the end it looks like your set's being adjusted and that there's colour bleeds and stuff, and like you
just see his true form underneath, which then begs the question straight away: has anything that we've read from the beginning of this actually true?
Yeah.
And that's like the sort of mind blow stuff that you're just like, oh my god.
That was the really interesting thing to me as well, because the first issue kicks off with the dark side is, and if anyone's read Final Crisis, they'll know that when you start to hear dark side is, and like you kind of get hints of the anti-life equation when they talk about that. They like Scott for a second thinks that he's been infected with it, whether Orion's been infected with it, and it leads you down that threat of, could Darkseid be back? And then at the very end it kind of yanks that away, and it's like, actually no, it's this bad guy, and it's
all about bait and switch with this, isn't it? And I think that that's fantastic. If we were to summarise the 2 lines, I would say that this is for anarchic, chaotic enjoyment, like an absolute thrill ride. This is like a roller coaster.
Batman riding a Velociraptor.
Yeah, I mean that's a panel. That's what I should have just summed it up as Batman rides a Velociraptor, and this is like the jazz bar.
Yeah,
that's
the very sophisticated one that Detective Chimp would attend.
Yes,
and mix with all the other socialites.
This is the discussion piece.
Yes.
This is the action piece.
Yeah.
And I think that like you cannot go wrong with either series. And I guess the question that we posed at the very beginning, which is better, it comes down to you could not find two pieces that are so well written that are so different from one another.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And I know what you're probably going to be saying in the comment section. Oh, get off DC's dick. We slam DC a lot in other things, but when they do it right,
I thought we had a Marvel bias.
Do we? I don't even know anymore. Yeah, like apparently we have some bias, and I'm sure that people will point out that we've been overtly positive on this, but sometimes things are just good, kids.
Yeah,
and this, at this present time, is f***ing great.
Yes.
So those have been the two lines that we've been reading this week. Let us know if you're going to be picking them up. We heavily recommend that you
please
do.
Like, you don't want to miss this. Like,
No.
I'm completely blown away by how good. I think it's right that we dedicated the time to just look at both these individual series completely, because at the end of the year, unless Doomsday Clock comes in and like blows them both away, I think these are the two strongest contenders for best comics of the year. So,
But don't you worry if you think that we're only doing sort of mainstream stuff, because we are planning on doing a more indie version next week's ones. That was the kind of trade-off for this. We thought we'd do heavily invested into one or two arcs in this case, and then next week we do sort of more small indie bits to share the love.
Yeah.
As always, let us know what you thought about it in the comment section below. Please send your love, because we need all the positive praise that we can get to keep this series going. And as always, I've been Jules.
I've been Ewan.
The father and son duo, and we'll see you soon.